Nigeria from the very beginning, almost 10 years ago. And I'm going to start off first by introducing Sochi Edoja. And Sochi is the principal coach and head of faculty for the Center for Core Coaching. For those who do not know, that's the first indigenously developed, internationally accredited coach training and certification program in West Africa. We're really, really proud of that feat. And I'll introduce Sochi, who was the immediate past president of ICF Nigeria as well, and also a founding member of ICF Nigeria. And she wears the hat of the MD of Team Building Africa Consults as well. So Sochi, nice to have you on this call.
Thank you very much.
And happy to hopefully share from your vast knowledge in professional coaching in Nigeria. So my second guest is extremely special to us all. Those who started the journey of ICF in Nigeria know Renee very well. She is a founding member of ICF Nigeria. In fact, a pre-founding member, because she was there from the very beginning when we reached out to professional coaches in our region. Then she was living in Nigeria and coaching in Nigeria. From there, she has gone on to various countries, various continents, coached across Africa, across the Middle East, Asia. She's now based in South America. She has clients in Europe, in North and South America. So we're really, really excited to have Renee Petzer on this call with us, joining us from South Africa at the moment. Renee, good evening.
Thank you so much for that lovely introduction. I'm so happy to be with this group. It always feels like home. Nigeria always has a part of my heart. I left a part of my heart in Nigeria, so there's a bit more of home.
Well, we certainly miss you. Somebody put in the chat that my mentor coach, and that really is the other missing part that I didn't say. Renee has been the mentor coach for our program at the Center for Core Coaching since inception. And I'm sure you have quite a few of your students on this call this evening. So I'm sure they are also excited to have you on the call and to see you virtually. Okay, so I'm going to start. We're trying to make this as efficient and effective as possible. So we respect everybody's time, and we're trying to keep to time as we continue on this call. Right. So I'm going to start off. This conversation is about accessing global opportunities in coaching. The coaching industry has come a long way in Nigeria. We have come from the days when we launched ICF 9 years ago, and they were still putting us in the back pages with the sports. I think they put us next to Tottenham Football Club Stadium. Or something like that at that point in time. When they just couldn't understand what coaches were, and we're trying to register ICF, and they're like, what kind of coach are you? Are you boxing coach, basketball coach? You know, they just couldn't understand. But now I think, coaching has come, it has come to stay. A lot of people now understand the value of coaching, the value of not just life coaching, but we now have various niches in coaching. And we're saying now that there are so many global opportunities because the market is growing, is expanding. And this conversation this evening is going to focus mainly on what those opportunities are and how we can access those opportunities. I know that many of us are in Nigeria right now. Renee, I know you don't know about the Japa syndrome and how everybody wants to earn dollars, with what has gone on with the foreign exchange. We want dollars, how do we access foreign income in the coaching industry. So that's what we're going to focus on. But right now, I'm going to just throw the floor open. I'll start off with Sochi to tell us a little bit more about herself and how she got into the coaching, the wonderful world of coaching.
Okay.
Sochi,
All right. Okay, thank you. Thank you for that. And so, yeah, so how I got into coaching, actually, JP, I have to say it was you that got me into coaching, that got me interested in coaching. So what, like 9, 8, maybe 10, no, actually about 10 years ago now. I can't believe it. It's already been 10 years. I had heard about this thing called coaching. I was curious about it. I started reading books, and somebody had once asked me if I could coach them. And I know I'd spoken to you about it. I said, but you're not a coach. So you should, you can't coach. So I remember you signed up for a coach training program, and then you said, okay, I can bring a guest, come along and hear about it, and let's see where this leads to. And I remember it was a 3-day program, full heavy duty, intense days. But at the end of the day of the 3 days, I didn't feel drained. I just felt so light and so like, I don't know, that certain bolts and nuts and blocks were unlocked in my head. And at that point, I was like, okay, I want to know more about this. How do I even sustain this energy? How do I keep this momentum going? And really, after, in asking questions, digging more, I signed up for the entire program. And it has been like one of the best, decisions. I don't want to sound cliche, but really, it was one of the best decisions I made, because it helped to break a lot of barriers, a lot of internal blocks that I held within me. And that's just really how it was. And I just said, okay, I have to do this more. I have to learn more. I have to dig in more. What is the next level for me? And that's just really how it unraveled.
thanks, Sochi. I think, she touched on a really important point. The thing with coaching is that when you're learning to be a coach, you are also almost sorting yourself out as well. You're self-coaching, you're coaching yourself. And you can't go through coaching without, first of all, being coached or coaching yourself. So thanks, Renee. Sochi. I'll hand over to Renee now for you to tell us about, how you got into the coaching world and how, you chose where you're operating now within that field.
So I was a executive at a multinational, and I got offered a coach. And I got so fascinated. Well, firstly, I worked with a coach for about 2-3 years, and my career just took off. It grew in leaps and bounds in a 3-year period while I was working with my coach, and it made such a difference to me, to my outlook, to my approach, it made fundamental transformational changes in how I showed up as an individual. And then I was offered the opportunity to become trained as a coach while working with the same company, still with my day job, and I grabbed at it, and I just thought, this is just absolutely wonderful. And a couple of years down the line of doing that, I realized that I was getting so much more fulfillment as a coach than I was as a leader. And it sounds a bit sad sometimes, and especially now, and I look back and I think, oh, geez, what were you doing wrong as a leader? But I don't think I was doing anything wrong as a leader. I was burning out as a leader and not really realizing it. But coaching was something that I really just enjoyed. And I felt at that point that I could have a bigger impact on the world as a coach than I could as a leader. And so I transitioned into full-time coaching, and that is 14, 15 years ago now. It's a long time. And I guess over that time, as what I focus on has shifted. I focus a lot more on coaches now than I did in the beginning. I focus a lot more on coach supervision and coach mentorship and bringing coaches together like I did in Nigeria. I did the same in Bangladesh. I'm doing the same in Honduras. hand-holding coaches, creating coaching communities has become really something that I enjoy doing. It's kind of like a legacy that I enjoy leaving. Yeah.
Right. Thanks, Renee. One thing that grabbed me from what you're saying is, you enjoy what you're doing. And I think that's the great thing with coaching. Every single client that you work with, you leave your coaching sessions with some sense of fulfillment that you've added value to your world, to your community in one way or the other. So I think it came out from what you said and also from what Sochi said. So, Sochi, you didn't mention what niche, where do you play in that coaching ecosystem? And then what also other niche are there as well?
Okay. So interestingly, there was a course during my training that said that your niche will find you. So interestingly, what I discovered was that my niche was really dealing with leaders, especially leaders, more particularly leaders in transition. So if they're new to the role of leadership, they just joined the organization or they were just promoted, I typically work with those individuals. So I'm moving them from the less operational to the more, strategic, long-term, angle of leadership, and also even working with people, being able to understand the dynamics within the team. Because I also did a bit of team coaching, but I found that leadership transition is really something that I've been drawn to, and I find excitement, I find fulfillment in that space. Other areas there's so many. From when we first started ICF, I remember there were not that many niches, but I think every day there's a new niche being formed. Of course, we have the typical career. There's health, health and wellness. There's someone, I think, that's a happiness coach. There are some people that are, I don't know, there's, again, leadership, there's executive, there's career, there's retirement coaching. There's so many different, grief even to some degree, grief coaching. I even, there are just so many fulfillment, even happiness and fulfillment type coaching as well, coaches. So there's so much out there. And what I've learned is that you don't have to feel like you have to box yourself into it. Whatever, just be attentive to what comes to you. And, just be sensitive to what is around you. And then it's what would, you would coach and you'll find your joy and and I see somebody put joy and fulfillment, and what you'll find your fulfillment and your joy in, as Renee also had said.
Yeah.
Thanks, the
Sochi.
niches certainly have exploded in the last 5 years.
Yeah.
They have. I think it's just like any profession. As the profession matures, you just get niches. There was a point in time when we were growing up, you only had GP, general practitioners, doctors, but now people are specializing in different things every single day. And I think that's what's also happened to the coaching niche. In Nigeria, what do you think the most popular niche is right now in Nigeria? Just in case there are people out there who have not found their niches or who are still wondering.
I would say that in Nigeria, leadership is still, what I see a lot in the corporate space, corporate coaching. So leadership, of course, at the executive level. So of course you have the executives and the leadership. Also, there's some small business coaching, which I didn't even mention. Some people also look into that for small businesses. But I think based on my experience and my knowledge, I feel like corporate coaching in that, that area is still a lot of organizations seeking coaches to help to develop their individuals, to grow their leaders, to be more effective, to look out for, just to be more effective and more coordinating and help their people be better versions. So I see that.
And I think
I also see career coaching.
Life coaching, I think, is very, very popular in Nigeria.
Yes.
People just want to know their stock. They want to know
Yeah.
to get on stock and achieve their life purpose or goal or whatever goal they're setting and establishing, and having somebody hold them accountable to those goals. So before we go on, I just want you, Renee, to help us establish, just in case there are people on this call that still don't really understand what the kind of coaching we're talking about is. And the reason, and so just help us establish what coaching is, because, coming back into the space and looking around, I still see so many coaches out there who are really still not coaches. We have motivational speakers that will attach coaches to their competencies. We have pastors as coaches. We have people who just do counseling. Everybody now is a coach. So Renee, help us all to set that baseline understanding of what coaching is and what it is not.
So that is something that hasn't changed in the 20 years that I've been exposed to coaching. And it's no different here in Central America. And when I say Central America, it's not North and South, it's the little bit in between. It just, I don't know. People there's value. There's obviously value in attaching coach to your name, which is why people do it. But what coaching isn't, it's not teaching. It's not telling people what to do. It's not counseling people. It's not being a psychologist or a psychiatrist. It is about walking a journey with your client alongside them. And I say client in that it is a professional relationship that you have, professional trusting relationship that you have with an individual that you build over time, where you encourage them to think differently, to view their world differently, to develop different perspectives, to get them to take action, to get them to learn how they can manage for themselves. I think that sums it up for me. It's that journey of co-creating with another individual to work with them to get them to achieve whatever it is they want to achieve, whatever they've set out to achieve.
Absolutely. So what I'm hearing you say is really, it's all about the client. It's not about you. It's not about your own personal wishes, desires, aspirations for your clients. It's really whatever the client's agenda is, and it's helping them to get to wherever it is that they choose to be. So it's all about the client's agenda. The answers come for the clients, because sometimes I have people coming to tell me that, oh, my coach told me to do this, my coach told me to do that, and got upset because I didn't do this. And I'm like, well, if your coach is telling you what to do, then you're not really coaching, because coaches do not tell you, because one of the fundamental principles of coaching is that the answers lie within, and your coach just helps to hold space to get you to connect with your own inner truth. So, I think it's important for us to establish that. All right. So, next question for me is, how did you, now Renee, you said you went through the coach training program in your organization, right? So how did you now establish your coaching, your practice? Because I think I remember correctly that when we first started ICF, all of us, I think there were like 15 of us that were founding members. All of us were doing coaching with other things like training. We're doing so many other things. But Renee was one of the few people who all they did was coaching, the entire practice, 9 to 5. Sorry, can we have someone mute, whoever it is that's not, technical team, can you mute? There's someone that's not muted.
It's Abby. There we go. Abigail.
Abigail, I've just muted her. Right. So could you please tell us, exactly
how did I do that? Well, I think I was really, to start off with, I didn't have a training or a human resource or an organizational development background at all. I had an IT background. I was global head of business information for British American Tobacco. Talk to me about data and reports and technology, and I could do this. But talk to me about organizational development and training and facilitation, and that was a whole different world. So I didn't have that ability to attach. But what I did do is I did two things. I attached to the things that I knew. So I attached to big corporates, and I attached to individuals in the technology field, because I understood those, because that's where it come from. And I was really very, very fortunate that literally I transitioned into two really, really big programs straight off from leaving my corporate role. And those two became the springboard for others. Kind of, I had the big corporate name, and it just, the one springboarded the next and the next and the next. And yeah, I guess my niche initially was technology, IT, leadership in corporates, in in multinationals, because I really understood that game.
Okay. So one thing you said resonated with me, that you attached to what you knew, you know. So again, for those that are out there who are still looking for their niche, you know, just stick and attach to what you know, right? That's actually quite it resonates with me. So let's turn to the opportunities, because there are so many opportunities out there. So what sort of opportunities are we seeing as trends globally right now? And I'll ask Sochi first, and then I'll go to Renee. So what are the global opportunities that exist in this field right now?
So when we talk about global opportunities, so what I'm seeing is that there are a lot of organizations who are, especially let me even backtrack, especially since COVID. I think a lot of organizations have probably grown more concerned about the well-being of their people. We now talk a lot, there's a lot more conversation around wellness and well-being and mental health and so on. So I noticed and I observed that since COVID, there have been a lot more organizations that are interested and keen on supporting their people, and in whatever, in coaching, and it's up to the individual to decide what it is that they want. So there are some coaching companies now that are looking for coaches in Africa to coach the multinationals who have regions and offices in Africa and Nigeria especially. So I mean, I know I've even been paired and partnered up with an American company for their clients in Nigeria. And it's a Nigerian company. So even there's some Nigerian branch of the company. So I've seen that a lot of organizations have that interest, that keen, they want to support their people, and it's up to them to decide what it is that they want. All they need from us is that, okay, you've met with this individual, and do you feel like you can support this individual in their journey in their own journey? So that's what I've seen with a lot of global coaching companies. Even locally as well, I've seen that trend that some organizations are now interested in developing their internal coaching capacities. So it's really, again, starting from when we started coaching, I remember we spoke to somebody that said coaching is a nice to have, I don't know about all this, airy-fairy stuff, to now being an important and intricate part of people development and organizational sustainability or sustenance is something that I've seen and I've observed. Yeah.
Okay, thanks, Sochi. What about you, Renee? I mean, what are these opportunities out there? Global opportunities.
I recently read, I think it was the PwC report, the PwC ICF report, where they're reporting that there is still growth in the coaching industry. It's not hit its peak yet. So that
Oh,
immediately says that there is still opportunities for us as coaches. Emergence of new niche markets. I mean, the very big one is health and wellness. I practice as a health and wellness coach now. But my reason for that was not because it is a growing niche area, but that definitely is one of the newer niche areas that is, as Sachi says, from COVID is just exploded. NGOs, being able to work with NGOs, that's very, very definitely a niche area. Being able to work with government departments is another where you get specifically asked, have you worked for government departments? So that is a niche that I've not really seen a lot of, and I've seen quite a bit of that in the last probably year. Even things like where I am now, there's an explosion of migrants coming across Central America into Mexico, trying to get into the United States. And these migrants it's not just South Americans or Central Americans, it's people from Nigeria, it's people from Afghanistan, it's people from Sudan. It is unbelievable, the global space of the migrants trying to get into America. And there recently was a call for coaches who could work with migrants in terms of helping them understand what their purpose is. And I thought to myself, wow, that's quite something. Because this year, I think, it used to be 100,000 migrants a year. It's now 300,000 migrants a month coming through this part of the world. And they're going, these people can't be told. And within that niche of working with people just imagine you one of those migrants. I mean, you're in a survival mode to some extent. They were asking for people Asian descent or people understanding Asian languages, people who have got African experience, because there were 4 Nigerians in this group of migrants. And that for me was really, really interesting. So because as people move through the world, that was always, I think, much more of a therapy space, and it's certainly the call for coaches in that space is interesting.
It's interesting. That's actually really interesting. I haven't heard of that before. What I mean, in the past, what I think also is that we now have a lot of the multinationals, or you have coaching firms who based abroad, but they are looking for local people to coach. So they get contracts from the US, from the UK, Middle East, and I think I've been called for several of those. And they're looking for coaches in Nigeria, and they're just looking, they can't find. So sometimes you have the opportunity to join these coaching, I think, communities, or like the pools of coaches, and you can be called on to coach their own clients. So that's for those looking for opportunities. You can look for these organizations, coaching organizations, that just bring you on, and they'll basically, whenever an opportunity comes up, they can pull you in to coach their own clients in different parts of the world. So you were going to say something. I continue.
Yeah, just to even add that, even just to follow on what you're saying, even there's some clients, some coaching organizations, again, they do like an automatic matching, but some people, even I've coached Nigerians in America, in the UK, because they are looking for Nigerians that can resonate, or that have lived overseas and that can connect with them, and they may feel a bit lost. So I found also that I found a lot of Gen Z, adults or whatnot, Gen Zers looking for coaches. And so I've done a lot of coaching in that space of Nigerians in America, in the UK, that are looking for Nigerians as well. So this does show up quite a bit, as you know.
That cultural fit. Never underestimate your cultural fit.
Absolutely.
When I was living in Nigeria, I was coaching expatriates in Nigeria because I had lived there. I understood it. Sometimes expatriates that were going to come into the country, some of those that were just arriving and weren't coping or didn't know the Nigerian ropes. After I left, actually, I ended up coaching a lot of Nigerians elsewhere. So I ended up, when I lived in Egypt, I coached Nigerians in the Middle East. And when I was in Bangladesh, I coached Nigerians because I had a cultural understanding. I kind of understood a little bit about the culture. So that cultural attachment, use it. Absolutely use it. And even like Sachi says, coaching Nigerians in America, because you're a bit of home. And you can relate to what they miss or what they need or how they're not fitting in where they are, all of those kinds of things. It's very, very important.
Interesting. So for you to join these, we've mentioned we've mentioned the coaching bodies. You've also mentioned, I mean, where else where else do those opportunities lie for those who are looking for these global opportunities? I think Renee mentioned NGOs. We've mentioned these, companies like Takatuf. There's some companies in the Middle East, all over. There are quite a few companies who have the coaching networks all over the world. Where else? Where else? Okay, Renee.
I think certainly, depending on where you want your niche to be is where you're going to look. There's companies like BetterUp, who recruit you as a coach, and they have you on the books and they do all the marketing and everything else. There's coaching.com. Everybody should be having their profile on coaching.com. It's being used by more and more and more companies to select coaches. It's a platform. They're Korn Ferry, big American company, always looking for coaches. American organizations have big footprint in West Africa, so there's a good connection. And you just need to look out for those. Look at business schools. A lot of business schools look for coaches across the world. Even the multinationals.
Absolutely. I know that Lagos Business School now has I think we were there a couple of days ago, and they said for all the MBA students now, they're going to attach coaches, and they're working with ICF Nigeria. I know Kenya started their own program with coaches before Lagos Business School started there. So I love the idea of business schools as well. I think one other area is the coaching bodies, the global coaching bodies as well. If you belong to those bodies, they will field your profile on their global network. So I know that on ICF platform, a few people have reached out to me or reached out to me in those days, that they saw my profile on ICF platform, and they'd like to see what kind of coaching that I do and things like that. So
I've certainly got lots of work via the ICF platform. Lots. Yeah.
So I guess the next thing, what we're saying is that not just ICF, there are quite a few coaching bodies globally that will offer that kind of opportunity as well. So leading from that, what would you need to have as a coach in order for you to be a part of these opportunities, these global networks, or the ICFs, the MCCs of the world? What qualifications, what would you need to be there? So
Okay. So I mean, so you first need to go through a certification, coach certification program, from as minimum of 60 hours to 125 hours of coach training. And for ICF, that's what is required. And then in addition to that, you also need to get a credential. So which is another layer after you've gotten your certification. So I'm aware that some coaching bodies are happy with you getting your certification and just being a member of a global body like the ICF. So when you're completing those sorts of forms, they will ask you, are you a member of a body as such? Also, to take it even further, and what has helped me is my credential, which shows your level of experience in the coaching space. So, I know Renee had mentioned coaching.com, BetterUp. There's another one also called Modern Health. And I remember that they reached out to me because I was credentialed. And even when my credential was expiring, they sent me a reminder that, look, it's about to expire. We would have to take you off if you don't renew. So, of course, that was encouraging for me or that was some form of motivation for me to make sure that I kept up with my credentials. So those are the sort of things that, because when you are credentialed, it is showing, especially with ICF or any of the other bodies, it just shows that you are at the global standard and you are recognized globally. And that is what global organizations want. They want to be sure that because they are trusting you with their people. So they want to be sure that you are following the ethics, you're following the core competencies as a globally recognized coach. And so those are very important.
Okay, so I'm going to do a quick poll right now. Thanks, Sochi, for that. I definitely agree to that, because there are many times that they're like, oh, please show your certification, show which body you belong to. Then before you can join, they'll say which coaching standards organization do you belong to. They need to see that before they even put you on their database. So I'm going to do a quick poll to see the audience. Are you a certified? How many of you actually have coaching certifications? Can we have our tech crew put that poll up? How would that work? Can they quickly put the poll up? And if we could just have could respond very quickly to that before we continue. Does anybody have any questions before we continue? I can see that time really flies when you're on these calls. You're like, oh, 1 hour, and it's already okay. So we have only 6 people have responded. Anybody else? But 83% of the poll so far. Are you a certified coach? So we have, okay, so majority of the people on this call are actually not coaches. So as Sochi had mentioned, what you require, to be coach. So in Nigeria, for instance, I'm assuming that most of the people on the call are local. Where, how do you sign up to these, or where can you find these coaching certifications, basically?
I mean, we have the Center for Core Coaching, of course, as I think it was BC that had, or maybe it was you that mentioned, we have the first ICF accredited coach training program. So, definitely, I mean, more details, I guess, about the program we can share later on in the session. So, and then also, of course, we always encourage people, join ICF. There's a local chapter, ICF Nigeria chapter. And so they also can help to, they can also help to guide you. But I see there's a question.
Yes, it said, Sochi, were we wrong to assume the certification we got from CCC was globally recognized since it's affiliated with ICF?
No, it is affiliated. No, you're not. I mean, well, Akbana, no, you are. Okay, so that's one of our alum. And yes, your program is accredited by the ICF. So it is not so CCC was the first in West Africa. So it is affiliated, or it is a coach training program accredited by ICF. Now level 2.
You're safe, Akbana.
Sorry?
I said you're
Akpana,
safe. You're
yes,
safe,
Yes, you are
Akpana.
safe.
You're
Don't
globally
worry.
you're very
certified.
You
No
are
worries.
safe.
I think I mentored Akpana actually.
I
Interesting.
think you
I
did.
think so. Yeah.
With all the
Interesting.
rigor we put you through, yes, you
Yeah.
are certified and
You're
you're
I was
safe.
cool.
just
You're fine.
double
Don't worry.
checking. I was just double checking because I was like, oh, you guys walked us to the bone.
Yeah.
No, I think that's the other thing. For you to join ICF, you must show that you've gone through a coach program that has they're very strict with the guidelines of the kind of coaching program that qualify for them to add you
Absolutely.
to a membership of ICF. So I remember when we were starting ICF in Nigeria and we were looking for coach. It was so hard for us to get coaches. We had so many coaches and we're excited that, oh, we have so many coaches, but to get coaches who have actually gone through
Just 20.
and accredited programs was extremely difficult, which also goes to, I guess, my concern with the Nigerian coaching industry. The fact that you know, if you're on this call, please share the word. You have to be very, very careful who you go to when if you're looking for a coach. Maybe I should ask the panel the question: what should you look out for? What must you ensure that your coach has in place before you, I guess, employ them as your coach?
Okay.
Renee.
I'll go.
Renee, do you want? Okay,
Yeah,
go
I'll
ahead.
go. I think and Sochi and Ajibola will really know this from me because I drilled it into the ICF in the beginning, was look for a qualified coach. Not only as a qualified coach do you have a standard that you have to pass, that you have to fulfill before you can call yourself an ICF coach. You also have to maintain that. It's not something that you just you know tick one box. It's not about ticking the boxes. So ask to see the coach's qualification and ask if that qualification is still valid. Because I could have been an ICF coach 10 years ago and not done anything since then, but and I may not be that good a coach. And ask them for a free session. It's the other thing.
Yes.
Is have a chemistry session, because it's not only about the qualification, it is also about feeling comfortable with your coach, but being able to feel that I'm going to trust this person. We're going to have a good relationship. And, you know, we all have people that we meet that we just go, oh, no, I just want to slap them. You know, it's human nature. And you don't want to end up with a coach that you feel like that about.
Absolutely. So Sochi, what else do you need to look? I mean, for you to access these opportunities globally, what else must you have? I mean, you've mentioned the qualification. What else is there anything else that coaches must ensure they in order to make themselves really viable?
Yeah. So what has worked for me is, of course, the qualification, the accreditation, or the credential rather, not accreditation, the credential, and then joining ICF, for instance. So like as Renee had said earlier on, a lot of our opportunities also came, and I think you mentioned it as well, came through ICF. So, and really is also engaging, networking with people, putting yourself, out there.
Putting yourself out there, yeah.
Yeah, I know sometimes, there, like we have said earlier on, there are a lot of people that say, oh, I'm a coach. And so sometimes I don't even like to say, oh, I'm a coach, because I don't want to sound too like I'm just part of the pack. But really, that is what I am, and that's what I do. So it's also about ensuring that you put yourself, and once you get the credential, put it out there, because one of the things I appreciate about that ICF credential is that it keeps you up to date. Like Renee had mentioned, you could have been a coach 10 years ago and not really kept up to speed with what's going on. But with the way the world is changing, evolving every day, what coaching was last year has changed again to what it is this year. I mean, things just keep changing. And so the beauty of the credential is that every 3 years you have to renew it. And in order to renew it, you have to keep yourself updated with information. So,
I have to
so
attest
that's
that
what keeps you
I've
up to
fallen
date.
into that crack since I've been away for a while. I'm now having to go through that rigor of reaccreditation, in order to reinstate my PCCs. That's at least that when you have an accredited coach, that they are up to date. The last question before I throw it open is, Renee, you've coached all over the world. You have clients from all over the world. What nuances do you look out for, or when coaching people from different cultures and from different countries, what do you notice the differences and nuances in coaching across borders?
So it's interesting. There are many and there are none. So when I say there are many, the cultural awareness is very important, can be extremely subtle, and can be quite difficult to understand. And I often, with clients in countries that I've lived in where it's not my culture, apologize up front and say, if I make any cultural mistakes with you, it's unintentional, but I'd love you to tell me so that I can learn about your culture. So that's the first thing. That is, there are many, many differences with coaching people across the world, and those are cultural. And being culturally aware, it's something that people say, oh, I'm culturally aware. And I almost want to call them and say, to be culturally aware across the globe is very, very difficult, because so much of that cultural awareness is a very subtle thing that unless you were brought up in that culture, you wouldn't understand it. So it's just being frank and honest and authentic about the diversity that you work with, and accepting differences, and accepting that you may blunder as a coach because you might not know, but to tell people that you're open about learning. So, and then where there aren't any differences is often in the subjects. Leaders are leaders are leaders are leaders, struggling with exactly the same stuff, with not being able to delegate, not listening, not hearing their staff, not having enough time, not managing time. All of those topics are the same. And the fact that somebody is sitting in Egypt or Bangladesh or Indonesia or Argentina or South Africa or Lagos, actually, if they can't delegate, they can't delegate. And so the humanness of the challenges that we face we are so much the same. And then the things that aren't can be really, really, really subtle. And that's become a little bit, I must admit, become a little bit of a mission for me when I'm in new countries, is to really try to find ways to be culturally immersive. And it's a lot harder than people think. Nigeria was quite easy in a way because I'm African. And there's things culturally that I understood pre-coming there. And then I had all of you, and you were all accepting. But very different in countries where your language is not the same. We're not speaking the same language, or there's a fundamental, if you're coaching somebody who's Japanese, they're fundamentally different to us as Africans, and you just don't know. So you just apologize up front. I find that's the easiest. I don't know if that answers your question,
think it does. I love the
JP.
fact. Yeah, I think it does. Just being honest and authentic that, I come from a different culture. If I make any blunders, just let me know. I think that's excellent. So do you have anything to add? Before you answer, could I ask people to raise their hands if you have any questions? If you're interested in a global career, maybe we just do a quick poll as well. In coaching, I want to find out more, just quickly fill our poll. Because we have plans to set up a network here in Nigeria for those that are interested in those global careers, because many times we've been approached looking for coaches. The World Bank came a couple of months ago looking for coaches in Nigeria and they couldn't find. So if you're interested in joining the network, if you're a certified coach, you're interested in joining. If you're not a certified coach as well and still interested in pursuing this global career, please let us just do a quick poll, and then send your data, put your data in the chat group so that we can follow up with you after this call. So Sochi, anything else to add to that, or you're
No.
good?
I think it's just, I really liked what Renee put, is that's being in the space of, is it openness and honesty as a coach, just saying, look, I might make, if I make any errors, let me know, but it's unintentional. It just creates, I think it helps to enhance and deepen the relationship and, builds rapport. I also, I try not to make any assumptions, but I also just do a little bit of background research just to understand a bit of the culture. But I also am careful not to make any judgments based on what I've read, because sometimes if you Google Nigeria, for instance, you see some, terrible stuff. But also, so one has to be careful of what it is that you read. But it's also good to just understand and then just go into the sessions, just being open. I remember actually, and something so it was just one of my clients that happened to be Dutch, and I realized that he was very punctual with time, with start time and end time. Once it was like 1 o'clock, if our session was supposed to end at 1, okay, so thank you very much, I have to go. Meanwhile, in Nigeria, what I noticed is that my clients, some of them would just linger on, and I'd have to like, okay, let's pull this in, let's get to the end, so, but initially when that first happened, I was like, is it me? But then I had to realize that no, it's just the difference. It could also be his character, it could just be who he is, but
No, it's the Dutch.
So it was just an interesting, yeah, so I think I shared
the
that with
Dutch.
someone. So that's just how they are. It's time. Go, let's go. But he became a very good, at the end, once we wrapped up, he became a good friend of mine. And it's cool, but he's very, to the time. And so just keep an open mind and just keep an open mind.
All right. Thank you very much, Sochi. And there's some clients like public sector that you say 1 o'clock, 1 o'clock is 1:15, 1:30, and the coach gets frustrated.
Waiting.
Oh yeah, and
absolutely,
then forever. All right, so we're going to open questions. Anybody with questions for Renee, for Sochi or Renee? Okay, the poll answers, those interested, we have 7 out of the 8 people that answered. Both of them is either a maybe or a yes. So for those people who have answered, please, could you just put your details in the chat group or chat, and we will send you more information on how to join the network. So yeah, any questions to our coaches?
Taya has put something in the chat.
Okay, so Sochi, do you want to read that out, or? Okay,
so it just says, thanks for this opportunity. Yeah, and it says, thanks for this opportunity and the awareness. I'm interested in being part of the global coaching team. My contact and send the details. So,
all right,
we'll just ask.
So, any other questions from throwing it open? All right. So as we wait for questions, can I have maybe BC just keep an eye on the questions, if there are any questions, just alert me. Just finally, just Renee, do you want to share any experience with coaching across cultures that is memorable, that comes to mind, that you'd like to share?
I think, why I was laughing a little earlier when Sochi was talking about Dutch and time is I'm half Dutch, and I used to find the time management in Nigeria I couldn't fathom it. I just couldn't fathom it. And then somebody once said to me, we just view time differently. And in the moment, we're actually much more present, and we're taking a decision in the moment about what's most important. And it might not be you, Renee. And I just loved that. And it just stuck with me ever since. And so when people say, oh, Nigerians can't manage their time, I go, no, 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 no. You're just completely not culturally understanding it. They do manage their time. They're very good at managing their time for the right thing for them in the moment.
Absolutely.
So that was what that actually for me is, it was a huge learning for me, that
Yeah.
just that different perspective on what is a Western European view of how time needs to be managed. And you come imposed with that in your mindset, and it's not right or wrong. But you think it's the right thing to impose on everybody else, and it isn't always. It really isn't. And I'm now living in more countries where time is not managed in the way that Western Europe wants it managed. And I'm kind of getting at thinking,
Yeah.
I think Western Europe's got it wrong, not everybody else.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I think research also shows that countries like Nigeria, we're actually less stressed than those countries that are like, you have to be there at this time. That's, so
Yeah.
it's good for our blood pressure.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not that I'm excusing the poor time management. It's just those are the things we have to look out for in this environment. Okay.
Another very light-hearted antidote is in Bangladesh, traffic was as bad, if not worse, than traffic in Lagos. So it actually was always a valid reason for being late, because traffic there was, take Lagos traffic times 5. Literally take Lagos traffic times 5, and imagine trying to get across a city equally big as Lagos, with 5 times the traffic. It was an absolute nightmare. So people did come late because of traffic. They didn't just say they were going to be late because of traffic.
Interesting. Sorry, Tosin David has something to share. Okay, there's a question, and then we'll take Tosin David. If you can share it live, I'd love it. The question from Alkana is, what are some of the recommended platforms? Aquana, I'm sorry, Aquana. What are some of the recommended platforms we can update our knowledge skills to stay current? Any links? So, Sochi.
Okay, platforms. Okay, so I would always say ICF. ICF has a lot of so if you check, I can put it in the chat box, coachfederation.org. But ICF, they always have a lot of updated information, the learning portal. So definitely, if you're not a member, they have stuff for non-members too. You can certainly log in. I mean, I think get access to some learning information, but I'd always encourage, I'm as a former past president, or if immediate past president, I always encourage to join ICF, because you get a lot of information, a lot of research data, and so on about coaching, the industry, and so on. Also, I mean, you have some other, like coaching.com. I think they have is it the annual WBEX? I think I can't remember. It's an annual conference that they have for coaches as well. WBEX. I can't remember what the WBEX stands for again, but something in business and executive coaching. World Summit in Business and World
like
Business
that,
and
yeah.
Executive Coaching Summit, something like that.
Yeah.
So if you Google WBEX, you can, they have a lot of information there every year. They even have a free summit
Training
before the main summit. And so they have a lot of information on that. So just check that out. But I think it's through coaching.com you can get that. Yeah.
And also there's
coaching.com is a platform you can register yourself on as well. It's not an accreditation platform or anything like that. It's just a network. But it doesn't cost, I don't think it costs anything to register on coaching.com, and they get the clients. So
right. There's also the Harvard Institute of Coaching. They have a lot of research, right? They have a lot
Yeah.
of real research in various aspects of coaching.
AOC, I think.
Health, AOC, yeah. That's also really good when it comes to research. But the ICF website has about too much information. There's just so much going on there, and I would definitely recommend that. Okay, one more question before we're gonna start rounding
Tayo
up.
has a question here. Tayo.
Tayo, please, do you want to unmute
He has a
yourself?
question. He's typed it on the chat session.
Okay. Right. He said, will it be possible? And I just wanted him to, I want to hear audience voices this
Okay.
evening. Like we've been doing the talking. So does anybody want to share a live question and, you know, just raise your hand? Or should I call on Tayo? Should I put you on the spot, Tayo, for you to ask your question live?
Okay.
Okay,
All
Tayo,
right.
you go ahead and talk, so go ahead. Tayo, go on.
Okay. Thank you so much for this opportunity. I must really commend. It's a really insightful program. Okay, so my question is, as an accountant, I just want to know the costs and benefits. So I want to know the likely cost of being a coach in terms of the certification and what it takes to be up to date, and also the likely remunerations, the returns. So thank you.
Thank you, Tayo, for that question. So Sochi will answer, I think, the first part of that question with the, you know, approximate costs, local, foreign, so that people can get the difference. And then maybe Renee can tell us how much she earns per hour. You know, Sochi too, in Nigeria, how much do coaches earn at, because obviously different levels, different amounts. So Sochi, start with you.
Okay, so for a full-on certification, it can cost, I mean, it depends again on the range, but it can cost anything from about, we'll have to get the fees again, but it's about 1.5 to 3 million. Sorry?
Ours was $10,000. The one we did was $10,000. The
one that
foreign
we did, yes. So yeah, so it can be from, you know, a range of about $5,000 to $10,000 depending on the stretch, and on the one we did, like JP has said, was about $10,000.
minus cost of air, the plane, cost of
exactly.
ticket, accommodation. We had to go like 3 or 4 times within that period. So
exactly.
yeah, go on,
so yeah, so that's the globally, you know, that's the cost. I mean, around, you know, what we've done. But what we've done in CCC, we've actually worked out, you know, some different costing. But those are things that we can also share with you. I think you've dropped your details. I have your details here, so it's something definitely that we can share with you in terms of that.
Can you give us a range? Better have a range for
it's about for the 6-month stretch of the program. I think it's about 3 million or so, 3.5 million naira for the 6-month program. But we've also broken it up so you can also pay in installments as well. So it's, and what the way we look at it, and I hear what you said, you know, that your accounting head hat has come on. It is an investment. See it as an investment, a long-term investment, because of the benefits that come as a result of it. I'm sure Renee would also share with you some of the kind of costing that coaches would charge. So some coaches would charge, I mean, in a range, they would charge about, you know, some coaches would charge as little as, in Naira, should I give the Naira or the dollar? You know what, Renee, let me even step back. Let Renee, I'll put Renee on the spot and give like a range of what they earn.
So at a global level, I mean,
yeah.
So there's a couple of things. How experienced are you? How many coaching hours do you have?
Yeah.
What's your niche? Who's paying? Yeah, those are sort of the things that people would take into account. If it's a corporates pay more than a private individual. I have different rates for a private individual to a corporate. For a corporate, if it's a program and there's many coaches involved, you know, there's a group of us and we're doing coaching over a year, you know, you could probably look at 250 to 450 per hour for coaching on a corporate program. Dollars, yeah. on a coaching program. Coaching, the rates have not increased a lot over the last 5 or 6 years. The rates have pretty much plateaued quite a bit. Private is really, you know, one-on-one for an individual. I really take those rates very much at face value for where that individual's coming from and how many sessions. Is it a 1 hour? Is it 3 hours? Is it 10 hours? You know, what are they needing? What is their background? That kind of thing. NGOs globally are not paying more than $125 an hour. They're quite tight with their money, but the work at NGO level is really nice. It's I don't know. I really quite enjoy the people that are working in NGOs are very passionate about what they do. So that makes quite pleasurable coaching, if I'm making any sense. So I don't know if I've answered the question, but the range is anything from 125 to 450 an hour. There are very few coaches that are charging, you know, maybe Michael Goldsmith or Marshall Goldsmith is at the $1,000 an hour. There's a very, very, very tiny portion of them sitting right at the top.
I think in Nigeria, there was a time that we got a client, so Chief, remind me that they were charging, an oil company was willing to do $1,000 per hour for their senior
Yeah,
executives. I
for their senior
remember
people.
before
Was
I
it very
left
top?
practice for the top directors.
Yeah.
We charge, I think they even had a standard charge globally. So we were getting $1,000 per hour for those kind of clients. But for the mid-range, I mean, then it was between 180,000 for like the lower mid management range.
80,000.
Like
80 to
5,000.
yeah. There's even one other client we did about 300 per, but again 300 per hour, 300,000 per hour. So yeah. So again, like Renee has said, it depends on the level, the organization, and your experience also as a coach. Sorry, Renee, you were going to say something.
Yeah, and also you need to keep a record of your clients. You need to get your clients to give you testimonials, to say what worked, what didn't work. You need to ask your clients to give you references so that you can go, I actually, you know, I've coached this person and it went really, really well. You need to do that too. That also makes a difference.
I agree with you. And I think a lot of those global organizations will actually ask you, who have you coached? What were the outcomes of of coaching sessions? You have to give them specific, I'll coach this person. So it's really important for you to do that. Keep that going as you go along. Just get your clients to give you referrals, testimonials, and always keep your hours because that's what determines how much you charge as how much you can command as a coach, you know, and the level that you work with as well. And I think the important thing is that when you're a corporate coach, the executive leadership coaches earn a lot more than coaches that do the more life coaching type of work. Yeah. All right. So we're now we're very mindful of your time. So Tokunbo Giwamo had a question. We'll use that as the last question. And then we'll ask Sachi to just give us a little bit about the program. Yep. Tokunbo, you had your hand up.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you, James. Thank you, Sachi. Thank you, Renee. Quite enlightening this has been. I have a question concerning accreditation. And I know it's not exactly the same thing as being certified. So I wanted to confirm, how do you get, I mean, what does it entail to be accredited? And then what are the advantages? What does it do for you?
Who would like to answer that question?
I can start and then I can start off. Happy to do that. So for the accreditation is the next level after you've gotten certified. So it's evidence and proof of how many your not evidence. Yeah, it's I guess proof of how many of your experience in coaching. So ICF has 3 levels. There's the ACC, which says which is 100 hours, minimum of 100 hours of coaching. And PCC is 500 hours, and then the MCC is 2,500, along with like how many hours you've been training. So from the program you did, you can go straight to PCC. But in addition to that, what is basically you submit to ICF and you just submit your log. That's why JP had mentioned that keep your log to show how many hours you have been coaching. So make it a habit after your coaching session, log it. I coach this person for 1 hour, 1.5 hours, and so on. So just be intentional about maintaining your log. And that's really it with the program. I mean, some you have to submit a recording, but that's what ICF will do. ICF will check your log. In some cases, they might at random check in with your clients. So again, you have to do this with honesty and integrity and so on. They might verify with your clients, possibly. They might not. They do it at random and submit that, and then they'll come back to you with your ACC, PCC, or MCC credential. And what we shared, one of the things I said about the benefits of the credential for me is I've gotten more visibility about, globally, on a global level. So there are some organizations that won't even work with coaches. And I think some of them now, I'm beginning to see that, I think even in Nigeria, but there are some organizations that won't work with you unless you have a credential. So, which is
World
what
Bank for one.
Well, absolutely. And even at that, I think they even only will start at the PCC level. So you have to, so it's really important. It's just another layer to being at that global, recognition. So it is, I always encourage people. I've seen what it's done for me. Yeah. And I would say that.
So certification, having done a certified program, and then the second one is now accreditation. As you quite rightly said, a lot of organizations will not work with you if you don't see your accreditation, which was different from a few years ago. If I look at my experience, just all they wanted was you're certified and you are attached to a body like EMCC, ICF. But right now, they're now looking for a attestation to the number of hours and your experience within the field, your niche area. All right. So can we just share the final polls while Sochi tells us a little bit more about the CCC coach training program that we have on offer and when it's starting and what it offers.
Okay, so sorry. Okay. So first of all, as I think I see some of my alum on the call. So we have revamped. Center for Core Coaching has revamped, is changing, is evolving, and a lot of new things are happening. So so what is taking place right now? So we have the coach training program that is still accredited by ICF, but we've broken it up. So the first level is Core Start program. Core Start is really for those who are just interested. If you're interested in coaching, you are curious about it, you want to even use it because also in organizations, what we found in leadership programs, they introduce coaching skills into their ways of working for their leaders. So if you're just interested in learning about the skills, then you can sign up for the Core Start program. I think BC will share more about the dates when it's going to start. Then after that, so once the Core Start is the first level, then we have the Core Flex. Core Flex is now like a layer on top of the Core Start program. Core Flex is if you're interested in, using more of the coaching skills, becoming a coach, but not necessarily with the, internal coaches, especially because again, organizations want to develop their internal coaching capacity. So if you're interested in learning the skills, in using it in your day-to-day life, coaching other people as an internal coach in your organization, or just using coaching as a level 1. Under ICF will be a level 1 coach training program. And that is just like the first layer about using coaching skills and being a coach is the first level, and more like being an internal coach within your organization. Now, the deeper program is the Core Pro. And Core Pro is the extended program, and that is the deeper, if you want to set up a coaching business, if you want to learn more about coaching niches, that is the more extended version where you can actually become a standalone coach and can join the global community of coaches. That would be the Core Pro program. So the first two are virtual sessions. They're all virtual programs. But in order to even qualify for the Core Pro, you have to do Core Start and Core Flex. So in order to qualify for, but the Core Pro is now a hybrid program in which you have the in-person, you have virtual sessions, and it's a very in-depth, detailed program that by the time you're through with it, you would feel like you can coach. There's some portions about setting up a business as a coach. You would actually feel like you can carry on and be a coach and move forward into the coaching world.
Thank you.
Okay. All of them also, just one more thing, all of them also encourage you to we also incorporate mentor coaching. Mentor coaching is part of all three modules of the program, because mentor coaching is critical, and that's when you coach, you practice your coaching, and somebody observes you, a mentor would observe you and give you feedback, really for your development and your growth as a coach. So.
Thank you, Sochi. I think the other thing to mention is that when you do your Core Pro, it'll get you ready for a PCC, Professional Certified Coach accreditation. So once you've done that, you've logged your hours, you can actually apply for a PCC with ICF. And for the Core Flex, it'll qualify you for an ACC, which is the Associate Certified Coach accreditation. Just by doing the program, you can, apply, doing your hours and doing the program, you can apply for that level of accreditation. So yeah, and the other thing I think for the Core Pro, you learn about team coaching, we'll give you methodologies for team coaching, methodologies for group coaching, and really, honestly, that's for people who really want to coach at a deep level. The approaches that we give, the tools in your toolbox are just immense. So you can just pick up your tools and use methodologies that we pick from so many disciplines, neuro-linguistic programming, we have some quantum physics in there, we have energy coaching, we have the normal systemic coaching. So this is our Jaguar, or is it Bentley of coaching? That's the Core Pro program. So with that, I'd like to thank every single person that has signed up and stayed from the very beginning to the very end. We haven't had anybody drop off this call. And so I'm going to just give a huge round of applause to all our amazing participants this evening. Thank you so much for joining. Thank you, Sochi, for being a part of this program and sharing your experience. And thank you so much, Renee, our darling mentor coach, who came on board at the very last minute. That's one thing about the coaching community. You can rely, we form such close bonds that you can just rely, call anybody. We called her, she was in Honduras when we called her beginning of this week, and she's here live with us. Now she's in South Africa. So thank you so much, Renee, and thank you to all the
absolute pleasure.
Thank
My
you.
pleasure.
Thank
you.
Renee, no, not Renee. Please help me. Mayowa,
Omowumi,
and Raphael, our head of administration. Bissy.
Thank you
so much for
Thank you, JP,
for organizing this program for us, this webinar, our first of many. And so as I round up, I was with somebody yesterday at a KPMG reunion, and they were a coach, and they said they just want a refresher, that they want to go back into coaching and they want a refresher. So if you're one of those kind of people, please sign up for Core Flex. It'll give you a quick refresher in about coaching, and then you can just pick up where you started and continue your coaching. So let us know, reach out to us. We'll be happy to help you, happy to support you along your coaching journey. And, for me, I always say that what brought me into coaching, ICF motto says, in service of humanity flourishing. And, for me, is in service of Africa flourishing. That's my mission field. And there's just so much potential on this continent that we need so many more coaches to help us get restarted and achieve our potential as individuals and as a continent. So please join us in this. Is our mission field to the world. So thank you very much, everyone. Enjoy your evening. Have a wonderful evening, and we hope to see all those people who have signed up for the program very, very soon. Thank you very much, everyone. Thanks, Renee.
Thank you. Thank you.
you.
Good night,
Thank you.
everybody.
Bye.